a small town where everybody knows each other's name, there's a little diner with a big story. One that starts with a woman who's anything but ordinary. Her name? Autumn Grace. A single mom, a business owner, and yes, she has Down syndrome. But don't let the soft voice or kind smile fool you. Behind her gentle eyes lies a powerful truth, one that connects her to one of the military's most decorated legends. And when a ruthless biker gang strolls into town and crosses her path, they have no idea what storm they just stirred up. Quick pause. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments and don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow's story will blow your mind. Now back to it. The morning sun bathed Everbrook Valley in a golden glow, warming the old wooden sign of Grace's Sunrise Diner. The scent of coffee and sizzling bacon floated through Main Street, wrapping the town in comfort. Inside, Autumn moved with practiced confidence. Each step deliberate, each task a quiet act of defiance against the limits the world tried to place on her. The booths groaned softly as the regulars took their places, settling in like puzzle pieces in a picture that never gets old. In the back corner sat Major Logan Blackwood, a man built from discipline and old wars, his silver hair neatly combed, his back straight, and his eyes constantly scanning, just in case. His coffee sat untouched. "The usual, Major?" Autumn asked, her words gentle but firm. "Thank you, Autumn," he replied. His voice softened just for her, though his eyes never left the door. Then came River, her 12-year-old son, bounding in like a burst of joy. "Mom, I got an A on my history test," he shouted. Autumn's face lit up. "Show me, sweet boy." Her speech was slower, maybe, but her pride was loud and clear. At a nearby table, Pearl Watson peered over her glasses. "Sharp as a tack, just like his grandfather," she murmured. Logan's jaw tensed at that, memories flickering across his weathered face. That's when the sound came. Motorcycles rumbling down the street. Not your average weekend riders. No. This was heavier, meaner. The Shadow Riders. They'd been circling Everbrook Valley for weeks, pushing limits, sniffing out weakness. Their chrome bikes gleamed like warnings in the sun. Their leader, a man called Storm, killed his engine first. Boots hit the pavement with purpose. Behind him, Viper and Tank followed, walking trouble in leather. Inside the diner, conversations froze. Logan's grip on his coffee cup tightened. But Autumn? She didn't flinch. "River, homework," she said calmly, motioning to the counter. Her voice didn't waver. The bell over the door rang again, only this time it didn't feel friendly. Storm entered first. The smell of exhaust and arrogance followed. They picked a booth near the door like they owned the place. Willow, the youngest waitress, backed off, but Autumn stepped forward, not missing a beat. "Welcome to Grace's. Coffee to start?" Storm squinted at her, took in her voice, her face, and then smiled, cruelly. Well, well, ain't this something special?" Viper snorted, but Tank's expression shifted just a little. Something about this wasn't sitting right. Logan slowly set down his cup. The soft clink sounded like a warning. Pearl's fingers slipped under the table, inching toward her phone. Across the diner, off-duty officer Nash Walker straightened in his seat. "Our special today is fresh-baked apple pie," Autumn continued, poised and professional. Storm leaned back. "I bet everything here's special. Ain't that right, boys?" Their laughter filled the diner, cold and ugly, but Autumn stood firm. No flinching, no fear, just quiet dignity and a notepad in hand. River looked up from his books. He knew those looks, those laughs. But his mom had taught him, actions matter more than words, and right now she was showing him why. Logan didn't move, but his body tensed, his mind doing what it always did, scanning threats, calculating responses. His eyes locked with Nash's across the room, no words needed. They both knew the difference between trouble and danger. Then, as suddenly as they came in, Storm stood. "Actually," he said, voice thick with mockery, "we'll take our business elsewhere. Place feels a little slow." They rose together, a tactic meant to intimidate. But before leaving, Storm turned back. "We'll be seeing you around. A promise. a threat. The bell chimed again as they walked out. Their bikes roared back to life. Inside the diner, nobody spoke, but everyone felt it. Something had shifted, and the Shadow Riders had no idea what they'd just awakened. The sound of revving engines echoed down Main Street like a warning shot, unnecessary, loud, and dripping with arrogance. Inside Grace's Sunrise Diner, Autumn Grace calmly picked up the untouched menus, moving with her usual steady rhythm. But Logan saw what most didn't: the slight tremor in her hands, the way she took just a second longer to align the salt shakers. "Mom?" River's voice was soft. "It's okay, sweet boy," she said with a smile that somehow made it feel true. "Some people just need extra time to learn kindness." Logan kept his eyes on the road as the Shadow Riders disappeared around the corner. He'd seen their kind before, men who mistook cruelty for strength and saw compassion as a weakness. He knew they'd be back, and when they returned, they'd learn the hard way what true strength really looked like. Pearl finally released the grip on her phone, exchanging a look with Officer Nash. A silent nod passed between them. The message was clear. The Shadow Riders had officially arrived in Everbrook Valley. For now, the diner returned to its rhythm. Autumn refilled coffee cups, her smile still warm despite the chill those bikers left behind. To anyone else, it looked like just another morning, but Logan knew better. He'd made a promise long ago, etched in sacrifice, and if those men thought Autumn Grace was an easy mark, they were about to be dangerously mistaken. Later that afternoon, the sunlight stretched long shadows across Main Street. Autumn wiped the counter for the third time, trying to shake off the unease that still lingered. The lunch crowd had come and gone, but Logan hadn't moved from his booth. His coffee sat cold, forgotten as he kept quiet watch. Willow approached, her voice low. "I can stay late if you need." "No need," Autumn replied gently. "It's Tuesday, River's Science Club. Keeping routine helps." Just then, the door chimed, and Mayor Sterling Hayes stepped in, his usual confidence slightly dimmed. "Just coffee today, Autumn. Though your pie always tempts me," he joked, trying to keep the mood light. Pearl leaned over. "Sterling, those men this morning." "I know," he cut in. "Nash already briefed me. I've made some calls." Outside, a group of teens passed the window, River among them, animated and smiling with his friends. Autumn's face lit up until two motorcycles ripped down the street, deliberately revving. River's friends jumped. He didn't. He stood his ground, eyes narrowing as he recognized Blade and Raven. Inside, Logan's hand clenched. The bikers circled the block, louder each time. "Autumn," Mayor Hayes started, but she was already moving. "River," she called firmly. "Inside, now!" He hesitated, then obeyed. His friends scattered, and the bikers finally sped off. Logan broke his silence. "Testing boundaries." "You've seen this before?" the mayor asked. "Different faces, same tactics," Logan replied grimly. Autumn returned to her tasks, but some of her composure had slipped. River sat at the counter, trying to focus on homework but glancing toward the window. "Mom," he asked quietly, "were they making fun of you?" Autumn paused, then turned to face him. "Some people think being different means being less. That's their problem, not ours." "She's right," Pearl chimed in. "This diner stood 15 years strong. Best coffee in 3 counties. Those bikers, just noise." But Logan didn't agree. He'd seen the gleam in Storm's eyes, the calculating look of a man who thought he'd found an easy target. The Shadow Riders weren't just passing through, they were digging in. The rest of the afternoon passed slowly. Regulars lingered longer than usual, offering silent solidarity. Nash checked in twice, each time lingering by the window, scanning the street. Then Jasper from the hardware store burst in, red-faced. "They're at the gas station, shaking people down for protection money." Mayor Hayes stood immediately. "Nash already responded," Jasper said, "but they scattered. Left this behind." He held up a crude flyer for a motorcycle rally, the Shadow Riders emblem printed front and center. "They're not just visiting," Logan said, rising from his booth for the first time all day. His presence quieted the entire room. He stood tall, battle-hardened and steady. At the counter, River looked to his mom. "Maybe we should close early." Autumn straightened. Her answer wasn't spoken yet, but it was coming. Mayor Hayes had barely begun to speak when Autumn cut him off. My diner, my rules, not running. Her voice was calm but firm, unshakable. Logan, sitting nearby, allowed himself a faint smile. That fire? He'd seen it before, on a different battlefield, in the eyes of her father. Then the bell rang again. Tank stepped in alone. The diner went silent as the hulking enforcer approached the counter, fresh patches on his vest announcing his role in the gang. "Coffee," he grunted. A pause. "Please." Autumn turned to pour, but Logan was faster, rising smoothly, stepping between them like it was nothing. "Bit late for coffee, don't you think?" he said casually. Tank narrowed his eyes. He was sizing up the older man, but something in Logan's stance made him pause. "Just coffee," Tank insisted, though the edge in his voice had dulled. "Might try the diner in Milton," Logan replied, eyes steady. "Better coffee there." For a long second, no one moved. Then Tank stepped back, retreating slowly, his size suddenly less impressive under Logan's quiet authority. The bell rang again as he exited, already speaking urgently into his phone. "They'll all be back," Logan said quietly. "I know," Autumn replied, "but I'm not leaving. My diner, my home." Logan looked at her, really looked, and saw it. Not just echoes of her father's strength, but her own, quiet, different, but just as fierce. He'd made a vow at her father's grave. Now he saw she didn't need protection. She was the strength. As the sun dipped below the hills, River packed up his homework. The regulars began to trickle out, each promising to return early. Hayes was still on the phone, concern etched deep into his voice. Autumn kept wiping counters, placing chairs, resetting sugar jars. But Logan noticed how she moved River's seat away from the window, how her eyes checked the door more often, how her hands paused longer than before. Everyone knew the Shadow Riders would be back. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that this wasn't just a standoff in a small-town diner. This was the end of a story written in blood and sacrifice, and it was about to come full circle. Hey, if you're still with us, hit subscribe. These stories take time to research and tell, and your support means the world. Now back to it. The crash came at dawn. Shattering glass broke the stillness. In the kitchen, Autumn froze, coffee pot half filled as she stared at the brick lying among the shards. Painted on it, in smeared red, the Shadow Rider's emblem. She moved slowly through the wreckage, careful not to step on the glass sparkling like stars in the early light. Her customers would arrive in under an hour. She had work to do. 20 minutes later, Logan arrived. She was already sweeping. "Called Nash," she said. "Reports filed." Logan scanned the scene, noting things others wouldn't, scrape marks on the road, the angle of impact. They came at 3:40, 5 bikes, 2 lookouts. Storm led them. Autumn paused. "You were watching?" "Always watching," he replied, voice low and heavy with promise. The bell above the door rang as Willow stepped in and gasped. "Oh my God, Autumn!" "Get the coffee started," Autumn interrupted gently. "Customers will be here soon." And they came. Word spread fast. The diner filled, not just with regulars, but with people showing up on purpose. Jasper brought plywood. Officer Nash took statements. Dr. Sage Bennett arrived with River. "The school called," she said softly. "He was worried when you didn't answer." "Phone broke," Autumn said, hugging her son. "Dropped it cleaning." Sage and Logan exchanged a look. They knew the truth. The phone hadn't fallen. It had been smashed. Then came the low rumble of engines. Not 2, not 5, all of them. Storm led the pack, parking directly in front of the broken window. His message was clear. This wasn't over. Logan stepped to the door. His stance shifted. Not dramatic, but unmistakable to anyone who'd served. He wasn't just a diner regular anymore. He was a soldier again. Storm entered first. Viper, Tank, and the rest followed. They spread out like a flood of leather and threat. The customers instinctively backed away, giving space. Storm's voice dripped mock concern. "Heard about your little accident. Shame about the window. Dangerous town." Before Autumn could respond, River stepped forward, straight into Storm's path. At 12 years old, he barely reached the man's chest, but his chin was high, his voice steady. "Get out." Storm blinked. "What did you say, kid?" "Get out. You hurt my mom's diner." Storm's amusement vanished. His hand twitched, just slightly. Then Logan was there, smooth, controlled. "Careful," he said, just one word, but it landed like a stone. "This ain't your business, old man," Storm growled. Logan's smile was cold. "Everything in this town is my business." The moment Logan said Colonel Grace, it hit like a thunderclap. Even the younger bikers flinched. Storm faltered, but only for a second. "Never heard of him," he said, trying to recover. "You will," Logan replied calmly, but with a quiet finality that carried weight. Sage stepped closer to River, instincts on high alert. Nash positioned himself near the counter, one hand resting close to his hip. The town wasn't just watching anymore, it was closing ranks. Storm turned to the room with smug authority. "Let me be clear, things are changing in Everbrook Valley. Smart business owners, they pay, and they stay safe." Then his eyes landed on Autumn. "Even special ones like you." The insult was sharp, deliberate. Several customers stood. Fear was giving way to anger. But Autumn didn't flinch. She stepped forward, her voice firm. "My diner, my rules." "I'm not paying you anything." Storm's jaw tightened. "Maybe you don't understand." "No," she cut him off. "You don't. This is my home." A stunned silence followed. Then Storm laughed, bitter and mean. "Your home?" he scoffed. "Lady, you shouldn't be running a lemonade stand." Crack. Logan's coffee cup hit the counter, loud enough to stop hearts. Storm's hand twitched toward his vest, but Logan was already between him and Autumn. "That's enough," Logan said softly, but the steel in his voice made even Tank step back. "This isn't over," Storm hissed as he turned to leave. "Not even close," Logan muttered. As the bikers filed out, River clung to his mom. Sage placed a protective arm around them both. Slowly, the tension drained from the diner, but Logan kept watching through the broken glass. Storm turned back one last time. "You can't protect them forever, old man." Logan's reply was quiet but lethal. "I made a promise to their father. Want to guess what it was?" The engines roared before Storm could respond. But Logan saw the question flash in Storm's eyes, the same question now on everyone's mind. Who was Colonel Grace, and what kind of promise makes a soldier stand guard all these years later? Autumn went back to sweeping, hands shaking slightly. River helped board up the shattered window. Sage made quiet calls about cameras and security upgrades. Nash approached Logan. "Colonel Grace, want to tell me what that was about?" Logan didn't look away from the street. "Not yet," he said, "but soon they'll be back tonight with more than bricks. I'll have extra patrols. Won't be enough." Autumn overheard. She sat down, drew River close, and faced Logan. "Tell me about my father's promise." He met her eyes, eyes that mirrored a man he once followed into war. "Not here," he said. "After closing. They all need to hear it." That night, the diner felt different. Shadows stretched across the boarded window. Silence clung to the booths. Autumn sat at the counter, River beside her. Logan stood near the door watching. "Your father wasn't just a soldier," he began, voice heavy with memory. "He was the soldier, Phoenix Grace." Through the wood and glass, patrol lights passed, reminding them why this story had waited long enough. Phoenix saved more than just us. He saved a village, civilians, families, caught in the crossfire. We were ambushed, outnumbered. Intel was wrong, but Phoenix didn't retreat. He stayed. Sage appeared with coffee. She wasn't just there as a doctor. "I remember that day," she said quietly. "I was a medic. That's how I met the Grace family." Autumn traced her father's face in the old photo Logan placed on the counter. "Mom never told me." "She couldn't," Logan said. "The mission was classified. Still is." Then the full story came out, how Colonel Grace had led the charge that drew enemy fire from evacuees, how he stayed behind to buy time, how his last words weren't about the mission. "They were about you," Logan whispered, voice breaking. "He made me promise to protect you no matter what." "He knew," Logan said quietly, "because he saw it in you. Even back then, not the same strength he had. A different kind, but just as real." River blinked away tears. "That's why you've always stayed?" Logan nodded. "Your grandfather earned our nation's highest honors, but they were given posthumously. He never got to watch you grow up. Never saw Autumn prove everyone wrong." Outside, the low growl of motorcycles echoed through the valley, this time slower, heavier, intentional. "They're coming," Sage said, moving to the window. Logan's body tensed. Storm's been asking questions. He knows now. Phoenix Grace wasn't just a name. "But he doesn't understand what it means," Autumn said. "Not yet. What it means is, we fight." Headlights cut through the night. Engines rumbled. The Shadow Riders had returned, and this time they weren't hiding their intent. "Mom!" River started, but Autumn was already stepping behind the counter, chin high. "My diner, my stand." Logan gave a grim smile. "Phoenix would be proud." He turned to Sage. "Get River to the back. Call Nash." The door slammed open. Storm marched in, his crew behind him. Chains, tire irons, tools of destruction in hand. "Last chance," Storm announced. "Sign it over or we tear it apart with you in it." Logan moved, but before he could speak, Autumn's voice rang out. "My father died protecting people from men like you." Storm sneered. "Your father, huh? Big hero?" "Lady, you can barely run a coffee pot." "Running this diner isn't about being fast," Autumn said, stepping forward. "It's about being right. It's about being brave." The words hit harder than Storm expected. Recognition flickered in his eyes. He'd seen those very words in the military file he found, etched into Colonel Grace's Medal of Honor citation. Before he could respond, sirens wailed. Headlights filled the windows. Cars pulled up. Trucks parked. The town had arrived. Jasper Stone entered first, gripping a worn baseball bat. Pearl Watson followed. Then came others, neighbors, friends, regulars, filling the diner, silently placing themselves between the bikers and the counter. "This isn't just her diner," Logan said. "This is our town, and we protect our own." Storm's face twisted in rage. "You think some retard's diner is worth dying for?" The slur dropped like a grenade. Logan was on him before anyone could blink, his hand locked around Storm's throat with the precision of a man who'd done it before. "That," he said coldly, "is Colonel Phoenix Grace's daughter, a man who died saving better men than you'll ever be. Want to rethink your words?" Red and blue lights washed across the scene as Nash pulled up, patrol sirens still echoing. More vehicles arrived. The whole town was awake and united. Storm ripped free, but his bravado had faded. He glanced around, the bat in Jasper's hands, the fire in Autumn's eyes, the steel in Logan's grip. His crew had already begun retreating. "This isn't over," Storm spat. Logan didn't move. "Actually, it is. You just haven't figured it out yet." As the engines faded into the distance, Autumn approached the photograph still lying on the counter. She picked it up, her fingers tracing her father's face, seeing it now not with grief, but with understanding. "He knew," Logan said softly. "Knew you'd face battles of your own. That's why he made me promise, not just to protect you, but to be here when you prove to the world what real courage looks like." River wrapped his arms around her. Behind them, the town began to rebuild. Someone swept up the broken glass. Someone else started another pot of coffee. Quiet, steady, but everyone knew this wasn't over. The Shadow Riders would be back, with more than words. The real battle hadn't begun yet. Meanwhile, at the Shadow Riders' compound, rage simmered. Storm paced their makeshift clubhouse, boots carving paths in the concrete. His men watched him warily. This wasn't the same Storm they knew. "A war hero's daughter," he growled. "A diner, and we didn't even know." Viper leaned against the pool table, feigning calm. "Doesn't change anything. We've handled worse." That old man wasn't just tough, Tank muttered. He was special forces. You saw how he moved. Storm turned on him. You scared of some geriatric soldier? Tank didn't blink. Smart to be careful. I asked around. Colonel Grace earned the Medal of Honor. The room went still. Even the youngest among them knew what that meant. Storm scoffed. Doesn't matter. This is our turf now. But his voice lacked conviction. Back at Grace's Sunrise Diner, the atmosphere was different, stronger. Jasper and his crew had reinforced the broken window. Military-grade cameras, courtesy of Dr. Sage's connections, now watched the street. Inside, Autumn moved between tables, pouring coffee for a packed house. Word of the confrontation had spread, and support poured in from nearby towns. But not all voices were friendly. You're putting the town at risk, Martha Collins declared from her booth. All because you're too stubborn to sell. The diner fell quiet. River, clearing tables nearby, glanced at his mother. Her reply was coming, and everyone could feel it. In a town where few believed change was possible, one woman proved otherwise, one cup of coffee at a time. Autumn Grace, a woman with Down syndrome, ran a small diner that became the heart of a revolution. When a notorious biker gang threatened her home, she stood firm, not with violence but with quiet courage. Backed by veterans who once served under her father, Colonel Phoenix Grace, the community rallied. The gang came to intimidate, but found themselves outmatched not by weapons but by unity, dignity, and resolve. Autumn's son River discovered old letters from his grandfather, revealing that Phoenix had died protecting a village others had written off. Just like Autumn, they needed someone to believe in them. That belief became the foundation of a movement. Even Tank, a former gang enforcer, switched sides, risking everything to protect his sister, who was just like Autumn. The battle spilled into the streets, but the community stood their ground. Veterans, families, and former enemies became allies. When the gang's leader tried to end it with violence, he was stopped not by fists, but by the strength of those he underestimated. River raised his grandfather's Medal of Honor flag high and said, "This is what real courage looks like." From that moment on, everything changed. The gang disbanded. Their clubhouse became a community center. Dr. Sage launched a medical initiative rooted in dignity. Emma, once silent, found her voice. Tank became a leader in national youth reform. And Autumn, she just kept working, serving coffee, offering grace, and building bridges. Media attention followed, but Autumn refused to let fame change her mission. When the governor asked her to speak, she brought her whole family, because she believed courage wasn't about standing alone, but helping others rise with you. Her words shook the Capitol. Strength isn't proving others wrong, it's proving ourselves right. Even Storm, the gang leader, admitted from prison, "I was wrong. Her strength was everything I wasn't." The diner became a national symbol. The quiet revolution, as the world called it, spread through coffee shops, support centers, and classrooms, not built on noise or power, but on everyday acts of dignity and belief. As years passed, Autumn's family grew. River, now a leader in social work, carried both his grandfather's and Logan's legacies forward. Emma taught thousands to find their voice. Tank trained communities in peaceful reform. Grace's Sunrise Diner became a landmark, not for what was fought, but for what was built. A place where strength came in many forms. And Autumn, she kept serving. Because sometimes the greatest revolutions aren't loud. They're steady, they're kind, and they're made of simple grace. Like this story? 2 more incredible tales are waiting for you right now. Just click on the next video. And don't forget to subscribe, because these stories deserve to be told.